Hi, in this post, after looking at some of the worst quotes made by smart and important people in class, I looked into the web a little bit further to find some more interesting quotes. And I think my favorite out of all of them is actually a quote by Charles Dwell that says, everything that can be invented has been invented. And I think that's pretty naive of him to say because it is so inaccurate. There's always a lot more inventions and improvements that people can make in our world, and I think that's kind of what drives inventions. However, the quote did mention that it may be an urban legend that he ever said that, so that might not be true. However, another quote I liked was about computers. So Ken Olsen, the founder of Digital Equipment Corp, was quoted saying, "There is no reason anyone would want a computer in their home," and I think this is definitely not very true, especially now since we know the different functions of a computer and we realize how useful and important it is. It's pretty obviously false, and I can think of infinite reasons why we want computers in our homes now. Another quote about planes was made by Wilbur Wright, who said, "Man will not fly for 50 years," in 1901. And it's pretty ironic because he was one of the aviation pioneers, and he said this right after a failed aviation attempt by the Wright brothers, which is understandable. He probably was feeling pretty down and was like, "Oh, we might not get this technology for another 50 years." But in just 2 years, the Wright brothers were able to successfully fly their first flight, first manned airplane ever made, and now flights are and airplanes are commonly used by a lot of people. Another quote about phones is a pretty long quote, but basically it's saying that Alexander Bell, who is the inventor of the telephone, tried to sell his patent to the Western Union for $100,000, but then the Western Union didn't see a use for this patent and was like, "Oh, this is ridiculous. We don't want to buy this patent," and kind of turned the offer down. However, only if they knew how useful and prevalent the telephone is now, they probably would have changed their choices. And the last quote I liked was about the light bulb. And it says, "Good enough for our transatlantic friends, the Americans, but unworthy of the attention of practical or scientific men." And this was again said by the British, and I thought it was pretty funny that they thought the Americans were kind of like not as intelligent or scientific as they were, and therefore would use the light bulbs, unlike them, who are more sophisticated.